So I'm working on disassembling the 1937 number 1 Mark III, and the forestock is stuck. And this is a common thing with these Royal Tiger rifles, is they're so dirty that these forestocks with their tight fits won't slide off. So the method I'm going to use to get this off is going to take a wood block, and this one has a magazine cutoff, so you'll have to, if you have that, basically tap it in the back here on these pieces of wood. And I'm just going to take that block, line it up with this piece of wood here, and just tap it on each side until it pops right off. As you can see, this is just after a few taps with a block of wood. You can see that there's just a lot of dirt and grime here on the receiver, and obviously when you have a tight fit already, you add that in, as well as potentially the wood just expanding a little bit over time, and you can see how you can get that tight fit. So if you just keep tapping it gently, maybe 2 taps on each side, eventually this will come off. So I've successfully tapped off the forestock, and you can see there's just a ton of grime in there, as well as some grime in the stock itself, and you can see how that would just keep it stuck in there. So just using a piece of wood on each side until it taps out is the best way to go about it. So got the Enfield all broken down. Did have some trouble getting the buttstock out of it. I had to put it back into my workmate, basically tap the steel portion here with a brass hammer until it popped out. You can see just very dirty. Looks like a small crack back here and then one down here. Otherwise the wood looks pretty sound. It's pretty dirty. There's definitely a difference in bluing on the magazine where it's exposed. It is possible this is wire wheeled. I know this happens to some of the rifles that came from Ethiopia. They were wire wheeled when they're taken out of storage. If that's the case, that might be why this is a B grade, just because it was wire wheeled. I think if it is wire wheeled, it should definitely be a B grade. You can see the firing pin's in really good shape. Bolt's good, trigger guard's good. Overall, I'd say the parts on this look pretty good. It's got a really good stamp there. I like to take apart some of the more complex parts of the weapon after I've cleaned it, just because it makes the disassembly a little easier without having to deal with all the crud that's in the way. You can see there's just a bunch of different things going on under the wood. You got what looks to be dirt, grime, maybe a little bit of surface rust, some bugs. It's just a lot going on under there. To take apart the bolt, you will need a tool for that. You can get these on a lot of different sites. Basically the teeth on there will grab the firing pin and take it out. I know the manual tells a way you can do it without one, but it's just the easiest way in my opinion. So you can see overall it's just pretty dirty. This is actually the first Enfield I've gotten from them where there's wear to the bluing underneath the wood. Normally the bluing looks pretty good underneath the wood line, but this one's got some wear to it. Curiously, on only the top part of it. So I can't help but wonder if this rifle spent some of its service life maybe without a top handguard here. It's possible. You can see that the serial numbers match, which is good. There's the top handguard. Looks like it's in pretty good shape. And this is the rear top handguard. The only thing that's missing is just the two pieces of wood here. So it's a little difficult to ascertain really the condition of the weapon until I clean it. There's just so much dirt on it. But overall, it looks pretty good so far. Stock bolt's in good shape, good threads on it. Sometimes the stock bolts get pitted and corroded. I'm just pretty happy to get a magazine cutoff. It's not common. That was a feature that was removed during the First World War for ease of production, and did come back after the war, but that's a feature that isn't really seen as necessary. You can see the safety's loose here, so I'll have to tighten that up when I clean it. Sometimes the safety gets reinstalled incorrectly. There is a way to put it back in. You can see that the safety is really loose, and sometimes you got to kind of line up a couple parts correctly in order for it to operate properly. I can show that to you later in the video. So I'm going to get to work on cleaning this. I've been asked what technique I use. Really, the easiest way is just to spray it down with some hop spray and then let that sit for a bit, and then I just wipe it with some rags. If you get any really troublesome spots, you can use either a 4-0 steel wool or a brass brush, mainly because you don't want to damage the finish or the steel on the weapon. The brass brush is probably the best way to go about it. And if you can find like bronze wool or brass wool, that's an even better technique. I'm going to wipe the wood down with some linseed oil and a rag, get some of this dirt out of it though first. What I like to do is I take this outside and just brush it out just to get a lot of the loose dirt and everything out of it before I put the linseed oil in. So I'm going to work on cleaning this, and I'll check in later in the video. So you can see here on the rifle there's some kind of hardened grind there, and I like to use a brass brush to just kind of work that out. You can see it's already starting to come out. And the good thing about the brass brush is it won't damage the finish of the weapon. So you can see here that stuff is pretty much gone, and it's not scratching the steel. Another example here is the top handguard. You can see this is its current state, and as I just rub some linseed oil in it, it really starts bringing out the grain of the wood and lifting the dirt right off of it. And that's just a few passes. You can see kind of the difference between what's been oiled and what hasn't been. Compare this to the other side that I haven't touched yet, where it's just completely filthy, and you can see that the linseed oil really not only cleans it, it really brings out the grains in the wood. And you can see here on the inside, looks pretty dry. And then now compare it to just a couple passes of that linseed oil, you can see it's already starting to soak that in compared to the drier portion before. As you can see here, just after a quick cleaning, just one coat of linseed oil, you can see a huge difference in the stock already. Still some spots of dirt on it and stuff, but you can already see the grains of the wood are really coming out. Seeing with the top handguard here, you can see that the wood looks a lot better. It doesn't look as all dried out like it did before, and the finish is really starting to come back. So I highly recommend for these types of rifles that you use linseed oil on the stocks. Really helps bring out the original finish as well as clean them off. So I got the 1937 BSA all cleaned up. Parts look pretty good. Probably do another cleaning again in another month or so just to go over it. But overall, it looks pretty clean. Really like the finish on the buttstock. You can see the really nice grains there. Same with the top handguard here. You can see this part is pretty dark, as well as the rest of the forestock. That's likely from oil or something, just kind of staining it. One of the things I like about this rifle is the receiver and the barrel match, as well as the bolt. You can see there it's the same serial number. So it looks like this is an all matching rifle. The rear sight also matches, as well as the nose cap. You can see some of the proof markings there on the barrel. Looking at the other side, you can see that this screw here that basically retains the safety is kind of stripped. It bends as you screw it in, so I'm going to have to repair that. You can see another proof mark here. It looks like it went through the arsenal in 1950. Either received a new barrel or was proofed again. Probably a new barrel. Overall looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and reassemble it and take a video of how it looks. So we got the rifle reassembled. I'll go ahead and take a closer look at it. Starting with the buttstock, you can see the butt plate's in good shape. And the finish on the buttstock looks pretty good. See the marking there looks really good, nice and deep. It's a BSA 1937 Shortly Mark III. So this is not a Mark III Star, this is actually a Mark III. You can see the serial number on the bolt. And the bolt functions pretty well. Serial number on the bolt matches the rifle. You can see the nose cap's kind of worn down. The other side of the buttstock looks pretty good as well. You can see here the only issue with it is the safety here. You can see it's kind of offset. The hole that it screws into is stripped. So I have to fix that. See proof marking there. See the other side of the nose cap's also pretty worn down. And the nose cap serial number matches the rifle. So overall a pretty good example of a B grade #1 Mark III. Definitely exceeded my expectations. Added a original sling to it. It's been blancoed. I'll go ahead and take a look at the bore. So you can see the bore is really nice on this one. So it looks like it's definitely, I would say, kind of up there with what I would expect from like a hand select bore. But, you know, just for the base price of a B grade, so I'm definitely not complaining. So aside from the issue with the safety, pretty happy with this rifle. Also really like that it came with a magazine cutoff, which is pretty rare to see on those rifles that are coming out of Africa. So I should have a video out on the 1917 BSA here soon. If you'd like to get a notification of that, feel free to subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments about this video, feel free to leave a comment below.